Hey guys, this is for dividing decimals with models. So we have the 4 in the dividend, that represents how many wholes we have. The 3 in the dividend represents how many tenths we're going to have. And the 5 represents how many hundredths we'll have. And we need to divide those into 3 equal groups according to our divisor. So we're going to start off by doing 3 big groups with nothing in them. And we're going to start placing those wholes, tenths, and then the hundredths accordingly in that order into our groups. Okay, so the very first thing that I see is that I have a four wholes. That means that I can put one whole in each group just like that. So you can draw a big box like that. Remember, that's one whole. Now we have an extra whole left over, right? But I can't give this whole to just any group and say that they're equal groups. It's not going to be fair to the other groups. So what I need to do is I need to regroup it. So this whole, all the holes have been taken care of, so I'll go ahead and put a check mark on that because I do have the 4 holes drawn, but I need to make sure that I regroup that one hole that's extra. And notice that on the tenths place I have a 3, which means that I'm going to have to regroup the whole into tenths, and then I'm going to have an extra 3 tenths to deal with because there's a 3 in the tenths place. So here's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to turn this one whole into 10 tenths by drawing 9 lines like that. And then I'm going to draw my 3 extra tenths from the 3 tenths in the tenths place. Okay, so that means I have 13 tenths that I have to distribute into my 3 equal groups. So I'm going to start distributing by giving 1 tenth to each group. And I'm going to highlight them as I go so you can see that I've used those 3 from the whole. That's why I colored it in blue. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing for the next 3. So I'm going to do another one here, another one there, and another one there. So I'm going to color those. So that means I've used 1, 2, 3 more tenths out of that one hole. And I still have 4 left in that one hole. 4 more tenths. So I'm going to take 1 more and give it to each group like this. And color them in. So you can see that I only have 1 left in that hole. And 3 extras from the 3 tenths. So I have 4 tenths left over. That means I can give another tenth to each group just like this. I'm going to color them in, and that means I have 1 tenth left over. So just like I had the one whole and I had to regroup it for 10 tenths, now I need to regroup this 1 tenth into hundredths. So I need to cut it into 10 equal pieces, and each one of those pieces is going to represent a hundredth. Alright, but now look at the hundredths place in our problem. We have a 5, and that 5 right there means that we have an extra 5 hundredths besides the 1 tenth that we have that we're going to regroup, that we're going to change for 10 tenths, for 10 hundredths. We also have those 5 extra hundredths. So that means I'm going to go ahead and draw them in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that I know that I drew out my whole entire model. Now it's finished, but I still have to distribute it. So that 1 extra tenth, I'm going to go ahead and cut it by drawing 9 equal lines, and that gives me 10 sections. So I'm going to go ahead and actually circle them in black so you can see them. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tenths. That replaces that 1 tenth. 10 hundredths. I'm sorry, I keep saying tenth. So now I have 10 hundredths for that 1 tenth. I also have the extra 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hundredths from the original dividend, which was the 4 and 35 hundredths. So that means that I actually have 15 hundredths. 10 from the one that I exchanged, and then 5 from the one that came from the place value, from the number from the dividend. So since I have 15 of those hundreds, I'm going to start giving them out to each group until I run out. So I'll give 1 here, 1 there, and 1 there. That means I've used 3. So I'm going to color them out. 1, 2, 3. You can see how I color them out. You can do this with a highlighter in your paper if you want to, or you can just cross them out, or you can just keep count. Whichever way you want to do it is fine, as long as you can make sure that you have distributed the correct amount of hundredths or tenths or wholes into the groups, and you can keep track of them somehow. Okay, the next 3 I'm going to do is going to be this one, and this one, and I'm going to highlight them, 1, 2, 3, and then I still have 4 left over in that 1 tenth. So I'm going to do another hundredth, another hundredth, and another hundredth, color them out. So that means that I have 5 extra, and then that little one in the bottom, so that's extra, that's 6. So I'm going to start doing another 3, 1, 2, 3, color the bottom one, color the top one, and the next one. So I now have 3 extras, And that's perfect because I can give one more to each group. And then that means that I've used all of them. So what I have now, it's 3 equal groups. And let's see what's inside each and every one of those groups. The very first group that I see is, well, by the way, that's going to give me my answer. However many wholes or tens or hundreds when inside each group is going to be my final answer, okay? So the first thing that I see in my first group is 1 whole, and then I have 4 of these guys, so that's 4 tenths, and then I have 5 hundredths, so that would be 0.05. If I put them all together, that's going to give me 1 whole, a 4 in the tenths place, and a 5 in the hundredths place. And if I do that for every group, you can see that I have 1 whole, 4 tenths, and 5 hundredths in every one of these groups, which gives me the same answer over and over. So that's going to be my quotient. That's going to be the answer to my division. I ended up with 1 and 45 hundredths, or 4 tenths and 5 hundredths. And that's how you do division with decimals using models. So the dividend is the total number of models that you have to distribute. The divisor is how many groups you have. And then the quotient comes from how many models you actually have, how many base 10 blocks you have inside each one of the groups. Okay, let's move on to the next one so we can get more practice. So the next problem is 3 and 64 hundredths divided by 4. Once again, notice that the divisor is the number of groups. In this case, we're going to have 4 groups. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't really matter how you draw them as long as you have 4 groups. Okay. Next, I'm going to look at my first number, and my first number in the wholes, in the ones place is a 3. So that means I have 3 wholes, but I cannot give a whole to each group because the other group is missing something. I would have to fill in another hole there, but I don't have another hole. So I can't do that. That's not the correct way to start this off. So instead of doing that, I'm going to have to, you probably guessed it, regroup. So by now you probably know that 1 whole is equal to 10 tenths. So instead of drawing the rectangles, I'm just going to do strip lines like this so that you can do them faster just like I'm doing them. Okay, so it doesn't take you forever. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tenths. And if I have 1 whole, that's equal to 10 tenths. So that means that if I have 3 of those wholes in this case, that's going to give me 30 tenths. Capiche? You're probably saying capiche right now, right? Good. So now we're going to start distributing. I have 30 of them. So here I go. I'm going to distribute 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, and 1 there. So that's only 4. I need to make it to 30. So I better do this a little bit faster, right? So that's 4. So here we go. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. Wait a minute. There we go. So I kept going and I only had 30. So now I have 30. But if you notice, I have exactly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on that one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on that one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on that one. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on that one. So I have 8 on the top 2, and I have 7 on the bottom 2. So because that means that I was missing 2 more. But remember, these are tenths. So if I look at my 10th place, what's going to happen when I look at my 10th place? Let me see. I don't know why I did all that. But I actually need to go ahead and undo that so that you can see the next step. So the next step is to look at the 10th place. Well, there's 6 more tenths that I have to distribute. And I needed 2 more for the bottom 2 groups, remember? So I'll go ahead and give it to that one and that one. So now I have 2 out of the 6 that I have in the 10th place. And I have 4 more to give. So I'm going to give 1 more to each group. Now if I count them, I end up with 9 tenths in each group. And that makes sense because 9 times 4 is 36. So that's 3 wholes and 6 tenths, or 36 tenths. Okay, The last thing that I have to do now is look at that 4 in the hundreds place. I only have 4 hundreds, and I have 4 groups to give them out to. So that means that each group is going to end up with only 1/100th. So one little bitty square in there. And that's it. I'm done with all of my models. I ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tenths. So I'm going to put that like that. You can, I want to put it on top, but I would recommend you do it like on the side so you can see it better. Because I'm using colors and you probably don't have pencil that you're using. So you probably need to just do it on the little side, on the white piece of paper, on the yellow piece of paper space. And then that one little square represented 1/100th. So if I line up the decimal and I add them up, notice that I end up with a 9 in the 10th place and a 1 in the 100th place. Because my answer is going to be 90/100th, or 9/10 and 100th. So if I do that in every single group, you can see that every single group has the same exact amount of base 10 blocks, which is 9/10 and 100th. So that gives me exactly the answer of 91/100ths. Let's see, I went too fast. Okay, so that's my answer, 91/100ths. Alright, the next one, I'm going to go a little bit faster since we have already explained the other two kind of in detail. And this one should be following the same steps over and over. So again, the very first thing I'm going to notice is how many groups I need to make. I need to make 5 equal groups. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I start with 7 holes. So because I do have more than 5 holes, I can give 1 hole to each group, and then I'll have 2 holes left over. I'll draw them over here on the side so that you can remember, or so that I can remember, that I need to regroup them. So each hole represents 10 tenths, which means I have 20 tenths. So I'm going to start giving them out to my groups. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 in each group, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So as you can see, those 20 tenths were given out into 5 equal groups, and each group got 4 of those tenths. Now let me point your attention to the 10th place. Let's see, did I get 25? 10 times 5, yeah. The 10th place also has a 6 in there. So that 6 has to be distributed as well. So I end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the extra one, let's see, did I do that right? I have 20. Oops, I think I drew one too many. Let me go back. So I should have ended up with 4 in each group, right? Because 4 times 5 is 20. There. That's correct. So I've finished those, and now I'm looking at the 6 in the 10th place. Those 6 are 6 tenths, so I gotta give them out to the groups. So each group will get 1, 1, 1, 1, and 1. So I end up with 1 left over. That 1 that's left over, I'm gonna have to regroup to make it into 10 hundredths. So that 1/10, I'm gonna draw it like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hundredths. And those 10 hundredths I have to give out into equal amounts for each group. So here I go: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I did top 5 already, and now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the other 5. So I'm finished with those hundredths. But if I look at the hundredths place, I still have a 5 in the hundredths place, which means I need to distribute those 5 hundredths. So that means that I'm just going to give 1 to each group, since I have 5 of those groups. And my final answer is going to be 1 whole and not 6, but 5 hundredths and 3 tenths. So that's going to be my final answer. And each group has the same thing: 1 and 5 hundredths, and then 3 tenths. So I'm having to correct this because I had miscounted and I had given them 6 for each one. Let's see, like that. And then 1 and 5 hundredths and 3 tenths. And 1 and 5 hundredths and 3 tenths. So you can see that my answer is going to be 1 and 5 hundredths and 3/10. Each one of those groups has the same amount of base 10 models. That's where my answer comes from. Okay, so that's number 3. And now we do number 4. This one is really easy because we only have 2 groups. So because we have 2 groups, all we have to do is divide them out into equal parts. So we'll start with 6 wholes. So that means that each group ends up with 3 wholes. And then in the tenths place, I have 8 tenths. So that means that each group is going to end up with 4 tenths. And I'm done with the tenths. And now the hundreds. I have 4 hundredths. So each group will end up with 2 hundredths. So my final answer is going to be 3 wholes and 4 in the tenths place and a 2 in the hundredths place. And you can see that in both groups. So my answer is 3 and 42 hundredths. Told you that one was easy because you just have 2 groups. Okay, the next thing that I want you to do is I want you to try out these 2 problems on the other side of your paper exactly the same way that I just worked those 4 problems on the left side of your paper. And then whenever you're finished, I want you to come back here and check your answer, okay? So go ahead and work them out. Push pause. Okay, hopefully you have finished. And now you're back for the answers. So here we go. Hopefully you saw that we have 6 as my divisor. So you should end up with 6 equal groups. Each group, we have 6 wholes. So each group needs 1 whole. And then you have 8 as your tenths. So each group will get 1 of those tenths. And we'll have 2 tenths left over. So each one of those tenths will be regrouped into hundredths. So that means we have 20 hundredths, like that. So each one of those hundredths needs to be divided among those 6 equal groups. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And then we have 2 left over. So those 2 that are left over, I'm going to go ahead and give 1 here to the first group and 1 to the second group. Because if you see on the hundredths place, now I have a 4. And that 4 means that I have 4 more hundredths to give out. So since I already gave 2, 1 for each one of the first 2 groups, now I need to give the extra 4, 1 to each of the last 4 groups. And that's it. I'm done with all of my base 10 blocks. So now I'm going to count how many I have inside each group. And you can see that inside each group I have 1 whole, I have 1 tenth, and I have 4 hundredths. So my answer is 1 and 14 hundredths. The second problem on that same side of the page calls for 3 groups. And I'm going to have 3 wholes, so each group ends up with 1 whole. Then I have 9 tenths, so each group will end up with 3 tenths. And then finally I have 6 hundredths. So that means that each group will end up with 2 hundredths. So my final answer is going to be 1 whole, 3 in the tenths place, and a 2 in the hundredths place. Pretty quick and pretty easy, right? Once you understand what you're doing, it's not that hard. Okay, the next questions, we have this one and the next one. So now we have 4 groups. So 1, 2, 3, 4 groups. And I have 4 wholes. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I have 3 in the tenths place. So that means that the 3 has to be regrouped. I cannot do anything with 3 tenths since I have 4 groups. So that 3 tenths ends up being 30 hundredths. 10 for each of those tenths. So I have 10 hundredths plus another 10 hundredths plus another 10 hundredths. So that's 30 hundredths. But if you look at the hundredths place, I also have an extra 6 there. So you really end up with 36 hundredths. So if you start giving them out to all 4 groups, here's what you end up with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. So that's it, 36 hundredths. Those are the little dots. So what you end up with in this case is with one whole, each group has one whole, and there is absolutely no tenths. There is no straight lines, so that's going to put a 0 in the tenths place. And we do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hundredths in each group. So my answer is 1 and 9 hundredths. And finally, the last one. We have 3 groups because our divisor is 3. And we're going to have to regroup that 2 because the whole, we don't have enough holes for each group. So instead of saying 2 wholes, now I really have 10 tenths and another 10 tenths, which gives me 20 tenths. And if you look in the tenths place, I have another 8 tenths there. So 20 tenths plus 8 tenths, that gives me a total of 28 tenths. So I'm going to start drawing them out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and I have one extra, 28. So that extra one I'm going to put up there in the white space, and I'm going to regroup it to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of those little hundredths. And if you look in the hundredths place, I also have an 8 there. So that little 8 we're going to take care of in just a minute. I'm going to go ahead and distribute first these 10 tenths, or those 10 hundredths that I just regrouped. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now look at the 3. Now I'm finished with those tenths, with those hundredths. Now if you look at the hundredths place, I have 8 of those. So I need to give 8 more to the groups. Notice that the first group have 4, so I need to give another one to the second group, so that's 1. 1 for the third group, so that's 2, and then keep going. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So now I'm finished with all of them, and you can see I have 0 holes. I don't have any big squares in any of the groups. So my 0 should be in the ones place. In the tens place, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tenths. So my answer is going to be a 9 in the tens place. And finally end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hundredths. So there should be a 6 in the hundredths place. So my answer is 96 hundredths. I hope this video helped you in dividing decimals using models. And if you need to watch it anytime, please feel free to do so. And if you have any more questions, please come see me during class. Thanks.